He's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army and Deputy General Counsel of the Navy as well. Van, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What is your observation about what we're seeing this morning out of Belgium?
Well, it's right out of the radical Islamist playbook. I mean, when you look at Brussels, the headquarters basically of Europe, with NATO there, the EU, the whole bit. And don't forget, it's not just about inflicting terrorism. It's also about inflicting economic harm and economic damage. That's right out of the Islamist playbook with these coordinated cells. Look, this needs to be a wake-up call. I don't know how many more wake-up calls we need for the free world. The fight against radical Islam is the challenge of our time. And in my book, The New Terrorism, How to Fight It and Defeat It, we talk about how since the 1500s they've been talking about this. It's the challenge of our time.
Yep, you know, you have the president who mocks people who are concerned about the types of people that we're letting into our country because they are listed as refugees. Even the Pope is taking people who have problems like that to task. At the same time, when you're tolerant, a lot of times your neighbor becomes your terrorist or your bomber. When you go to get your ticket punched or you go to purchase a ticket to travel in an international location, next thing you know, you're a victim. What do you have to say to people who are getting a little concerned that security and our country doesn't have our back?
Brian, political correctness is literally killing us in this country. And the reason we have a government, the reason the states came together in the first place was to provide for the common defense of the American people. Everything else is secondary. Securing the borders of America has got to be the top priority for this country right now. When we've seen like the Charlie Hebdo murders, those kinds of things, I detail, don't forget, the first imam that called for the assassination of these cartoonists was Saeed Jazari. We called him a couple years ago. You know where we called him? In the back of a trunk of a BMW trying to cross the Mexican border. They know how to get here. The previous FBI director, Robert Mueller, testified a few years ago in Congress that in 2011, we caught 59,000 people from countries other than Mexico illegally coming to this country. Those countries included Pakistan, Somalia, Iran, Syria. Let me tell you, they were not coming here as part of a church mission outreach program. They were coming here to do harm to America. My question is, where are the ones we didn't catch? Where are they in America, and what are they doing? Political correctness is killing us. Don't forget the FBI intercepted 18 emails between Nadel Malik Hassan, the Fort Hood terrorist, and Anwar al-Awlaki, the head of al-Qaeda in Yemen, and did nothing because of political correctness. We need to understand this threat for what it is, and I'm sorry, Mr. President, it's not criminal activity, it's radical Islam. They want to kill us. They're here on American soil, and we need to protect the American people.
Anyone that you can think of specifically that might be behind this?
Well, this is pure, I mean, well, what we're seeing here, this is pure ISIS, radical Islam. Don't forget that so many of these Paris attackers and Abdul Salam, they went to Syria, they worked with ISIS, they've come back in here, I mean, came back to Europe, they made a mockery of the whole refugee situation. ISIS has told us they're going to use the refugee situation to bring jihad to America, just like they're bringing it to Europe. And I was talking to a friend of mine in Norway today. Get a load of this. Mullah Krekar, the founder of Ansar al-Islam, which part of it merged with ISIS back in 2014, he was released from jail last week in Norway. This guy's wandering loose on the streets of Norway right now. I mean, how much more of a wake-up call does the Western world and does the free world need?
Well, the people of America, you know, the citizens of these nations are going to have to step up and pressure their own legislators and lawmakers because it's not working the current way.
It's certainly not. And you know, it's so, and Brian, here's the problem. I say today it is a more dangerous world today than it was immediately after 9/11. Technology is changing so quickly. But our governments, the government of the United States, the governments of the Western European countries are so flat-footed and lack the ability to adapt and respond quick enough. So as the technologies increase, the threats are increasing exponentially. That's why we've got to think outside the box. Rather than responding to the last terrorist attack, we've got to think outside the box to prevent the next one.
Well, the one that happened today, clearly terror. I mean, we understand that at one of the strikes at the airport, Van Hip, apparently just before the guy detonated his bomb, he squeezed off a couple of shots with a gun and then was yelling in Arabic. We know it's terror. We don't know if it's ISIS. We don't know exactly what strain of terrorism it is because nobody's taking credit for it yet. Or does the fact that nobody's taking credit for it give ISIS the ball?
Well, let's see what happens in the next few hours, but it's radical jihadists. We know that. I mean, it's right out of their playbook with the suicide bomb vest, the whole bit.
Well, it certainly looks
yeah,
like that.
It certainly looks like that, and being that there seems to be a tunnel right from the Middle East right over to Europe, and Brussels was on high alert to begin with, and a major arrest was done on Friday, it makes you think that everything's coming together to lead you in one direction.
Absolutely. And well, we've got, again, like I said, think outside the box. So don't forget about social media. They're killing us on social media. That's how they're recruiting these people, they're brainwashing these kids. We need to turn the table and start going after them on social media. We've got to think outside the box. Brian, we've got no land-based missile defense on the entire east coast of the United States. They're killing us. I mean, what the Islamists are doing with sabotage, with cybersecurity on U.S. businesses, as well as our government infrastructure. I mean, it's not one magic bullet. It's a combination of things that we've got to do right now to keep this country safe.
Right.
And it begins with a commander-in-chief defining the threat for what it is.
Van Hipp, thank you so much. Stay close. Meanwhile.
Thank you.
Well, let's go back to Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's an expert at stuff like this.